before we talk about the next level, before we talk about favor, elevation, or destiny, can I ask you something real? Is your heart in the right place? Because we're so good at dressing it up, wearing the smile, quoting the scripture, showing up in the room looking anointed. But deep down, some of us are bleeding while leading. We're broken, bitter, or bound, and we're asking God to open doors that our hearts aren't even ready to walk through. Tonight, I don't want the perfect version of you. I want the honest you, the one God sees when the lights are off, the one who says, God, I'm tired of faking peace. I want the real thing. So before we go any further, let me ask again, is your heart in the right place? Because until it is, no platform, no promise, no relationship, no blessing can fill the space that only a whole, healed, surrendered heart can handle. Before you move, before you say yes, before you clap back, before you enter that room or post that status or text that person, check your motives. Check the why behind the what, because you can have the right action and still carry the wrong heart. You can serve and still be secretly bitter. You can give and still be quietly resentful. You can look obedient on the outside and still be rebellious on the inside. A lot of us are doing the right thing with the wrong heart, and then wondering why the breakthrough is delayed, why the peace doesn't settle, why the blessing doesn't stick. Could it be that God is saying, I see your hands, but I'm more concerned with your heart? Because he doesn't just judge what you do, he weighs why you do it. And see, if we're honest, sometimes we don't even know our real motives until pressure exposes them. We say we're helping because we care, but the truth is, we want to feel needed. We say we're being silent because we're mature, but the truth is we're afraid. We say we're staying in that friendship or relationship out of love, but the truth is we're scared of being alone, and God's not afraid of that truth. He's not intimidated by your hidden motives. He just wants you to bring them to him, not hide them from him, because healing can't begin where pretending still lives. Some of us are exhausted, not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing everything for reasons that were never rooted in God. We're driven by trauma, not purpose. We're motivated by fear, not faith. We're moving to prove something, not to fulfill something. You don't have to prove anything to people who never saw your value in the first place. You don't have to impress people who weren't assigned to your destiny. God doesn't need you to perform. He just wants you to be pure, not perfect, but pure, and purity starts in the heart. If you have to manipulate to keep it, it's not from God. If you have to lie to hold it together, it's not in alignment. If you have to shrink who you are to make it work, your heart's not in the right place. God is too intentional to bless your mask. He wants the real you, and you can't be real with God while hiding your heart behind performance. I know this is uncomfortable, but sometimes conviction is how you know God is still speaking. He's saying, I want to deal with that part of you you've learned to decorate. I want to go into the places you've camouflaged with church talk and polite smiles. I want to deal with the reason you always have to win the argument, the reason you can't celebrate her success, the reason you have to control everything, because those aren't personality traits. They're heart symptoms. Some of us have been busy, but we haven't been surrendered. We've been visible, but not vulnerable. And when your heart isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter how big the opportunity is. You won't be able to hold it, because what you build with the wrong motives will eventually collapse under its own weight. That's why God delays some things, not to punish you, but to protect you from platforms your character isn't ready to carry. He'll pause the promotion because he's trying to preserve the person, so check your heart. Are you doing it to serve or to be seen? Are you loving because it's safe or because it's God? Are you giving because you're led or because you're guilty? Are you showing up because you're assigned or because you're addicted to applause? These are the hard questions, but they're holy questions, because when your heart is right, you don't need validation. When your heart is right, you don't chase revenge, you release it. When your heart is right, you don't wait for people to clap. You're already confident because heaven has affirmed you. God is raising up people who don't just know how to move, but know how to move with the right heart. Because when the heart is in alignment, your life starts to follow. You stop reacting out of wounds and start responding from wisdom. You stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. You stop needing everything to go your way and start trusting that God's way is better, even when it doesn't make sense, and I get it. There are seasons where it's hard to keep your heart pure. When you've been overlooked, when you've been betrayed, when you've been loyal to people who couldn't even say thank you, it's tempting to close off. It's tempting to do the right thing with a numb heart. But if you keep doing that, your heart turns to stone, and you start operating from memory instead of intimacy. You start quoting scriptures without living them. You start praying with your mouth, but not with your soul. You start moving with no momentum, surviving instead of thriving. But God is saying tonight, I want your whole heart, not your public image, not your Instagram self, not your curated testimony. I want your questions. I want your anger. I want your confusion. I want your honesty, because when I have your heart, I can heal your life. Don't keep walking in rooms trying to look right when your heart's not right. Ask God to examine it, search it, purify it, not because you're trying to earn His love, but because you're responding to it. It's love that leads us to change. It's love that cleanses. It's love that corrects. So before you move, check your motives. Before you say yes, check your heart. Before you serve, before you lead, before you build, before you speak. Ask God, is my heart in the right place? Because if it's not, I don't want it. If it's not, pause me, God. If it's here moving, serving, grinding, praying, fasting, going through the motions, doing all the things we think we're supposed to do, while silently hoping it will fix what's broken on the inside. You're volunteering, preaching, parenting, building, showing up in every space you can, hoping that if you just do more, maybe the pain will shrink, the shame will fade, the memories will stop haunting you at night. But the truth is, what you do with your hands will never override what you carry in your heart. We don't like that part. We don't want to sit with that, because that means we've got to stop doing long enough to start feeling. That means we've got to stop fixing everything and everyone long enough to let God fix us. That means we've got to stop using our performance as a cover-up for our pain, because we've mastered the art of movement, but not the ministry of healing. See, some of you are bleeding out in private while clapping in public. You're shouting on Sunday and spiraling on Monday. You're helping everyone else heal, but haven't made space to acknowledge your own wounds. And God is not asking you to pretend. He's not requiring your perfection. He's asking for your truth, because your healing doesn't start when your hands are full. It starts when your heart is open. You can't keep busying your way out of brokenness. You can't keep organizing your trauma into categories that make it look manageable. That pain doesn't need a spreadsheet. It needs a savior. That heartbreak doesn't need a new distraction. It needs deep repair. You don't need to fix it for God to bless you. He just needs you to be honest about it. You keep saying, I'm okay, but you're not, and that's okay. You keep saying, I've moved on, but your heart still flinches every time their name comes up. Every time you see something that reminds you of what you lost. Every time you feel invisible, overlooked, left out, abandoned. You pretend like it doesn't sting, but it does, and God's not asking you to be strong right now. He's inviting you to be still. Let Him touch the places you've ignored. Let Him pull the bitterness out of your chest. Let Him speak into the silence where you stopped believing that healing was even possible. Because sometimes your body moved on, but your heart didn't. Sometimes your life upgraded, but your soul never caught up. And the scariest place to be is successful on the outside, but still broken on the inside. That's why some of you can't rest. You're afraid of stillness because when it gets quiet, your pain starts speaking. But don't confuse stillness with stagnation. Sometimes healing feels like nothing's happening, but everything is happening. Sometimes the silence is God clearing the space so He can finally work. You've been building walls around your heart, calling it protection. But it's actually isolation. You've been guarding your peace with fear instead of faith. You've been saying, I'll never let anyone hurt me again. And in doing so, you've shut out everything, even the healing. God doesn't heal what you hide. He heals what you hand over. And it's not just the obvious wounds. It's the subtle ones too. The betrayal that happened years ago but still dictates how you love today. The rejection that taught you how to perform instead of be present. The guilt you carry for things you couldn't control. The disappointment you never admitted because you thought it would make you look ungrateful. Your healing won't start in your hands. It starts when you surrender your heart. You keep trying to serve your way into healing, love your way into healing, lead your way into healing. But what if healing isn't something you earn, but something you receive? You don't have to prove that you're worthy of being healed. You already are. You don't have to achieve perfection before God touches you. He heals the messy. He blesses the bruised. He restores the shattered. You're not too far gone. You're not too complicated. You're not too fragile. You're just ripe for a miracle. You're just broken enough for His power to show off. You're just surrendered enough for the healing to begin. The enemy wants you to believe that your brokenness disqualifies you, but God says it's proof that you're ready. That's why your heart has been under attack, because the enemy knows if you ever let God into that space, if you ever let God touch the core of your wounds, if you ever open up that part you swore you'd keep locked, you'll become unstoppable. Because a healed heart changes how you walk, how you speak, how you love, how you see the world. A healed heart doesn't perform, it flows. A healed heart doesn't manipulate, it trusts. A healed heart doesn't compete, it celebrates. And maybe the reason you keep struggling with the same cycles is because you're trying to carry destiny in a heart that hasn't healed from history. Some of us are praying for overflow while carrying offense. We want God to do a new thing but haven't let go of the old one. And that old pain, that buried bitterness, that unresolved grief, it's contaminating everything new God's trying to do. Healing doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you pretend it didn't happen. It means you let God reframe it. You let Him use it. You let Him redeem it so it no longer controls you. You can't step into your next if your heart is still tethered to your past. And I know it hurts. I know you don't want to go back and relive it, but you don't have to go back to stay there. You go back to retrieve the part of you that got left behind. The little girl, the little boy in you that was silenced, shamed, rejected, abandoned. God is saying, I want them too. Bring them into the light. Let them receive my love. Don't leave pieces of yourself in places you were never meant to stay. Wholeness means reclaiming every part of you. So today, stop fighting healing. Stop delaying it. Stop numbing it. Let the tears fall if they need to. Let the anger come up so God can clear it out. Let the memories rise so He can restore them. Because when God heals, He heals completely. Not just the visible parts, but the inner places, the private pain, the hidden struggle, the shame you never speak of. He's coming for that, and He's not coming to condemn you. He's coming to cleanse you. He's not pointing fingers. He's extending hands, hands that don't just fix your life, but transform your heart, because when your heart is healed, your habits shift. When your heart is healed, your voice gets stronger. When your heart is healed, you stop shrinking, you stop settling, you start becoming. You ever wonder why you keep snapping at people even when they didn't really do anything wrong? Why something small can trigger something big in you? Why you're fine 1 minute and the next minute you're crying in the car, losing sleep, or shutting down when all someone did was ask you a simple question. It's not that you're dramatic. It's not that you're too emotional. It's that there's something deeper going on. Hidden wounds create loud behaviors, and when I say loud, I don't just mean volume. Loud can look like defensiveness. Loud can look like control. Loud can look like avoidance, perfectionism, comparison, overthinking, self-sabotage. Those patterns you keep repeating over and over again, not because you want to, but because some part of you is still bleeding. You've just gotten good at functioning while wounded. We are a generation of functional survivors. We've mastered how to smile through pain, how to post through heartbreak, how to show up and serve while silently sinking. You've learned how to keep your schedule full so your soul doesn't feel empty. You've learned how to lead the meeting, preach the sermon, raise the babies, build the brand. And no one would ever guess that underneath all that strength is a heart that's still wounded. Because if we're honest, some of our loudest moments didn't come from the present. They came from our past. That clapback wasn't about them. It was about the moment 10 years ago when you weren't heard. That fear didn't come from the current opportunity. It came from the time you failed and no one helped you up. That overreaction in the conversation, that wasn't just about that comment. It was about the years you've spent being overlooked, dismissed, silenced, betrayed. We think we've moved on because we changed locations, changed circles, changed jobs, changed churches. But you can change your surroundings and still carry the same symptoms. A new season doesn't heal an old heart. Only truth does. Only God can go back to those moments and do what time was never meant to do. Heal them. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not broken beyond repair. You're just carrying a wound that never got air. And when something gets infected, it doesn't matter how much makeup you put on top, it's still going to show up. It doesn't matter how spiritual you sound or how successful you become. What's unhealed will always leak. That's why you can be in a healthy relationship and still expect rejection. That's why you can be surrounded by love and still feel alone. That's why you can have a platform and still feel invisible. Because your heart has been whispering, "I need attention," but your pride keeps answering, "We don't have time for that." And now your behavior is screaming what your heart's been whispering. We dress it up in religious language. We say we're just guarding our peace, but really we're guarding our wounds. We say we're setting boundaries, but really we're building walls. There's a difference between being careful and being closed. Some of you aren't protecting your heart. You're imprisoning it, and you wonder why nothing new can get in. You wonder why the joy can't land, why the opportunities don't feel fulfilling, why the people around you don't feel close. Because your heart is screaming from a place that never got healed. You don't need to apologize for your pain, but you do need to deal with it, because pain that's not processed becomes personality. If you don't confront it, it becomes part of how you see the world, how you treat people, how you treat yourself. And some of us don't even know who we really are. We just know who we became in survival mode. We've built identities around trauma, not truth, and now when peace tries to enter, it feels unfamiliar. It feels unsafe, so we reject the very thing we've been praying for. We say, "God, heal me." But when He sends help, we push it away. We say, "Lord, send someone who won't hurt me." But the moment they get close, we sabotage it, because it's easier to cling to the familiar than it is to trust again, and we've become so accustomed to pain that peace feels like a threat. But here's what I love about God. He's not scared of your noise. He's not intimidated by your reactions. He's not turned off by your trauma. He knows how to read between the lines. He sees past the attitude. He sees past the silence. He sees past the "I'm fine." He knows the language of wounds, and He still calls you worthy. You don't have to fix yourself before you come to Him. You don't have to tone it down. You don't have to pretend. God is not looking for a polished version of you. He's looking for a present version of you. The one who says, "God, I don't even know why I act like this sometimes. I don't even know why I get so angry, why I shut down, why I can't connect. But I'm tired of being loud with my behavior and silent with my healing. I'm ready for you to deal with this." That level of honesty is where breakthrough begins, not in pretending you're okay, but in confessing that you're not in doing more, but in surrendering deeper. Healing happens when you stop hiding your behavior and start revealing your brokenness. Let's stop calling it "just how I am," when really it's how we learn to cope. That sarcasm, that's defense, that cold shoulder, that's self-protection, that need to control everything, that's fear. It's not who you are, it's who you had to become to survive. But now it's time to let God show you who you really are. Not the loud version, not the reaction, not the wound, but the healed, whole, soft-hearted God. Filled version, and no, it's not going to change overnight. But the first step is recognizing the root. Instead of just praying for God to change your behavior, start asking Him to show you the wound. Say, "God, show me where this came from. Show me the moment it started. Show me the lie I believed. Show me the place I shut down, and then help me release it." You don't have to live the rest of your life being triggered. You don't have to live in defense mode. You don't have to protect yourself from love, from friendship, from growth, but you do have to let the healer do his work, not on your behavior, but on your heart. So the next time you feel yourself reacting, the next time you feel yourself about to pull away, shut down, lash out, don't just blame the situation. Ask the deeper question, what's this really about? What part of me is still unhealed? Because when you know the root, you can start pulling it out. When you know the wound, you can stop hiding it. And when you stop hiding it, God can finally heal it. You can show up every Sunday, serve on every team, lead every meeting, say all the right things, and still be completely out of alignment with who God actually called you to be. Let me tell you something. God can't bless who you pretend to be. We've gotten so good at performing, so good at shaping ourselves to fit expectations, roles, aesthetics. Whatever we think will make people accept us. But acceptance that's built on a lie is just rejection with lipstick on it. It looks good for a moment, but it doesn't last, because eventually the real you starts knocking, begging to come up for air, gasping under the weight of the mask you keep putting on. We've gotten so good at curating the version of ourselves we think the world wants to see, polished, poised, always ready, but God doesn't anoint the mask. He doesn't bless the role. He doesn't pour oil on the performance. He blesses the authentic you, the version of you that cries in private and wonders if you're really enough. The version of you that's terrified to tell the truth because you're not sure if people will love you once they see the whole picture. The version of you that smiles in the photos but feels like you're falling apart in silence. God is not interested in a picture-perfect version of you. He's after the version you try to hide, the one you buried under other people's expectations. The one you locked away after that heartbreak, the one you silenced after that trauma, that's the one he wants to heal, that's the one he wants to raise up. But here's the thing. He can't heal what you pretend isn't broken. He can't transform what you won't give him access to. Some of us are praying for breakthrough, but all we've given God is the edited version, the church-ready version, the version that knows the scriptures and the lingo and how to say, I'm blessed and highly favored. When your heart is actually heavy and burdened and barely hanging on, and I get it, it's scary to be real. It's scary to strip the mask and stand before God and others and say, this is actually where I'm at. This is what I struggle with. This is what I don't understand. This is what I'm tired of carrying. But what if that's where your freedom lies? What if everything you've been waiting for, peace, clarity, healing, intimacy, what if all of it is waiting on the other side of your honesty? We're so afraid of being disqualified that we disqualify ourselves before we even give God a chance to work with the truth. But let me tell you something, God never called the perfect. He called the available and not the pretend you version of available, the real you, the messy you, the I still have questions you, the I haven't figured it all out yet you, the I'm struggling but I still showed up you. You don't need to be more polished. You need to be more present, more surrendered, more available to what God is trying to do underneath the surface. You can't fake your way into favor. You can't manipulate your way into destiny. You can't edit your way into anointing. That's not how this works. The anointing flows in the areas you're willing to be honest about. The transformation begins where the mask ends. God is not in love with your image. He's in love with your soul. He's in love with the version of you who whispers prayers through tears. The one who wants to believe but still feels broken. The one who's tired of pretending but afraid to be exposed. But let me say this, you will never heal in a space where you have to hide. Some of us are hiding behind strength. We've convinced ourselves that if we're strong enough, nobody will see the cracks, but strength without surrender is just self-protection. And God didn't call you to protect yourself. He called you to trust him. Some of us are hiding behind busyness. As long as our calendar stays full, we don't have to face what's really going on inside. But busyness doesn't heal brokenness. It just delays the moment you finally have to sit with yourself and with God and be real. Some of us are hiding behind titles: wife, husband, pastor, CEO, creative, leader, entrepreneur, and those titles become our identity, but they are not our truth. They are not our wholeness, and when the title shifts or disappears, we crumble because we never allowed God to affirm us. Just the version of us we performed for people. I want to ask you something. Who would you be if no one was watching? If there were no likes, no comments, no accolades, no applause, would you still be her? Would you still be him? Would you still be faithful? Or are you performing for the room while starving on the inside? Because some of us are addicted to applause but allergic to accountability. We want the platform, but we don't want the process. We want elevation, but we won't give God the real version of ourselves that needs the elevation. And he's saying, I want to bless you, but I can't bless who you're pretending to be. He's saying, you don't have to do all this. You don't have to exhaust yourself to be accepted. I already chose you. I already saw the mess and the beauty and the scars and the gifts, and I still said yes to you. So if he already said yes, why are you still performing? If he already knows everything, why are you still hiding? If he already made room for your real self, why are you still editing? What if the thing you're most afraid to reveal is the exact place where God wants to show his power? What if your greatest shame becomes the stage for his greatest glory? What if the part of you that feels too broken, too embarrassing, too not there yet? What if that part is the very thing he wants to use? But he can't use it if you keep hiding it. He can't bless it if you keep burying it. He can't breathe on it if you won't bring it. So I dare you tonight to stop pretending. I dare you to strip the mask, to take the risk, to let God see you in full light. Not because he doesn't already see you, but because you need to know he still loves you when you stop pretending. You've been performing long enough and you're tired, and that tired isn't from work. It's from the pressure of trying to maintain a version of yourself that was never real to begin with. So let the mask go, let the performance die, let the curated version of you sit down, so the called version of you can finally rise. Because the oil doesn't flow on pretend, the healing doesn't fall on fake, the blessing doesn't chase performance, you keep asking why nothing's changing, why every time you get a little momentum, something knocks you back down. Why the peace never sticks. Why the relationships keep cycling. Why the vision is clear but the path feels blocked. And the question you're asking is, what's wrong with my life? But I want to challenge you with something deeper. What's going on in your heart? Because the condition of your heart shapes the direction of your life. It's not just about what's around you. It's about what's happening in you. It's not just about what you're facing. It's about how your heart has been shaped by what you faced. And you can't move forward in purpose if your heart is still out of alignment. You can't walk in divine order with emotional chaos. A crooked heart will always pull you off course, even in a good season. Some of you are in the right rooms, but with the wrong posture. You've been given the opportunity, but your heart is too guarded to receive it. You've been handed the next step, but your heart is still paralyzed by the last betrayal, the last failure, the last time you thought it was safe. So now you're moving cautiously, half-heartedly second, guessing every door that opens, not because God isn't leading you, but because your heart hasn't caught up with his direction. You're praying for clarity, but clarity comes through alignment. When your heart is cluttered with fear, offense, pride, shame, your spirit can't hear straight. It's like trying to read the map with a cracked lens, and that's why you keep detouring, why you keep delaying, why you keep running in circles. You're moving, but your compass is off. And a broken compass will always make you question the destination. That's why the enemy doesn't need to destroy your life. He just needs to distort your heart. If he can convince you to carry bitterness instead of healing, fear instead of faith, comparison instead of contentment, then he doesn't need to touch your external world, because your internal world is already spinning. You can be standing in a promised land and still living like a prisoner if your heart hasn't been set free. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that you're here but still not home. You're in the new space but carrying the old struggle. You've changed your scenery but not your sensitivity. You've shifted environments but your heart is still stuck in survival mode. And you wonder why the new doesn't feel new. Because the same heart keeps repeating the same patterns in different places. A misaligned heart will make you sabotage good things. You'll push people away who are sent to bless you. You'll overlook open doors because you're afraid of what's on the other side. You'll downplay your gifting because you've been taught to shrink. You'll say no to purpose and call it humility when really it's fear dressed in false obedience, and I get it. I've been there. I know what it feels like to walk into a room and feel like you're not worthy to be there. I know what it feels like to be so used to pain that peace feels suspicious. I know what it feels like to smile while secretly wondering if you're even qualified. But let me say this clearly, God's not asking for your qualifications. He's asking for your alignment. He's asking if your heart is in sync with his voice, if your motives are pure, if your vision is clear, if your character can carry what you're praying for, because your life is not limited by your talent. It's limited by your heart's capacity to steward the weight of purpose. You can have the gift, but without alignment, the gift will crush you. You can have the platform, but without alignment, the platform will expose the cracks you never addressed. You can have the relationship, but without alignment, your insecurity will poison the connection. God is not trying to delay your destiny. He's trying to prepare your heart to sustain it. And maybe that's why the season has felt so heavy. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's purifying you. He's digging deep, he's confronting the hidden motives, he's pulling up the roots you forgot were there. He's exposing the places where your heart still leans on pride instead of presence, on performance instead of prayer, on defense instead of surrender. He's saying, daughter, son, if I gave you what you asked for right now, would your heart be ready to hold it? This is the part we don't like, the quiet part, the inner work, the soul surgery. We want the elevation, but not the excavation. We want to go higher, but we don't want to go deeper. But alignment happens below the surface, in the unseen places, in the daily decisions, in the way you talk to yourself, in the way you forgive what no one else even knows hurt you, in the way you choose obedience over validation, in the way you pray when nobody's watching. That's where alignment is built. You can't walk in divine direction with a distracted heart, a divided heart, a bitter heart, a fearful heart. So if you're wondering why it feels like nothing's moving, maybe God is saying, it's not the path that's off, it's the heart that's misaligned. And he loves you too much to let you build your life on a faulty foundation. He loves you too much to let your purpose collapse under the weight of unresolved pain. Let him realign you. Let him recalibrate the compass. Let him go back to the lie you believed at 12, at 17, at 25. The one that told you you're not enough. The one that told you to stay quiet. The one that told you you had to earn love. Let him speak truth to those places. Let him uproot what doesn't belong, because when your heart gets free, your life follows. When your heart is in alignment, your decisions start making sense. Your relationships shift. Your atmosphere shifts. Your worship becomes real. Your walk becomes steady. Stop asking God to change your direction if you're not willing to examine your condition, because no matter how far you go, your life can't outrun your heart. Eventually, what's in your heart will show up in your habits, your language, your posture, your presence. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to keep running fast in the wrong direction. I don't want to keep building things that look good but don't last. I don't want to keep attaching my identity to platforms, people, or places that don't know the real me. I want my heart to be whole. I want my motives to be clean. I want my direction to flow from alignment, not ambition. Because when your heart is right, everything else starts to line up. So no, it's not just about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming, and you become by allowing your heart to be shaped by truth. By grace, by love, by the presence of a God who's not in a rush to bless your plans, but is always ready to align your purpose. You keep asking God for peace, but can I on us like glitter? But peace isn't magic, it's a result of surrender. It's not just about worshiping louder or serving more. Sometimes it's about doing the quiet, painful work of forgiveness, the kind of forgiveness that doesn't make sense to your pride, the kind that doesn't feel fair to your pain. The kind that says, God, I'm letting go, not because they deserve it, but because I can't afford this poison in my soul anymore. You've carried it long enough, that offense, that grudge, that weight. It's been sitting in your chest like a stone. And at some point, it became part of your identity. Now you don't even remember what it feels like to live unburdened. You've gotten used to carrying it. That bitterness became your filter. That resentment became your defense. And now you're guarded, closed, reactive, and you think it's just your personality, but it's not. It's the poison. Unforgiveness is one of the enemy's most subtle weapons because it hides in places we call boundaries. It disguises itself as strength. It puts on the mask of I'm just being cautious, when really you're still bleeding from a wound you won't admit is infected. You smile over it. You've spiritualized it, but your heart knows the truth. Your heart knows that every time that person's name comes up, something in you tenses. Every time someone brings up that season, something in you shuts down. Every time you're asked to love freely, you pull back, because part of your heart is still frozen in a past you haven't released. Let's talk about it. I know they hurt you. I know they left without explanation. I know they lied, betrayed, abandoned you. I know they took something from you that they can never give back, and I am not here to minimize your pain. I'm not here to act like it didn't happen. I'm not even here to say you're wrong for feeling what you feel, but I am here to say you can't keep drinking poison and praying for peace. You can't keep rehearsing what happened and wonder why you still feel heavy. At some point, the wound has to stop being your identity and start being your testimony, because peace doesn't come when they apologize. Peace doesn't come when they finally admit what they did. Peace doesn't come when they feel remorse. Peace comes when you say, God, I release them. Not for them, but for me. I choose to be free. That's the part we struggle with, right? Because our flesh wants justice. Our pain wants payback. Our trauma wants them to suffer like we did. And forgiveness feels like we're letting them off the hook. But forgiveness is not about releasing them. It's about releasing you. You're the one who keeps reliving it. You're the one who can't trust now. You're the one who's afraid to love again. You're the one who stays up overthinking conversations. You're the one who walks into rooms full of people and still feels unseen. You're the one who's locked yourself into a cycle of pretending you're fine when you're actually still wounded. And all the while they've moved on, but you're still stuck, not because of what happened, but because you won't let it go. Let me tell you something. Holding on to unforgiveness doesn't protect you. It poisons you. It doesn't make you strong. It makes you bitter. It doesn't keep you in control. It keeps you in captivity. You can't build a healthy life on a bitter foundation. You can't ask God to fill your cup when your cup is already full of resentment. And I get it, you're thinking, but they never said sorry. Can I tell you something hard? Closure is a gift they may never give you, but healing is a decision you can make without them. Forgiveness is not about them showing up. It's about you showing up for yourself. It's about choosing peace over pride, choosing freedom over fury, choosing growth over grudge, because the longer you wait for them to make it right, the longer you stay stuck in the pain they caused. God doesn't need their apology to make you whole. He just needs your yes to surrender, your yes to freedom, your yes to peace. That doesn't mean you pretend it didn't hurt. That doesn't mean you invite them back into your life. Forgiveness is not always reconciliation. Forgiveness is saying, you no longer get to control my emotions. You no longer get to influence my joy. I take back my peace. That's the decision that shifts everything. Because once the poison is gone, your vision clears, your worship deepens, your relationships soften, your perspective expands. Once the bitterness is gone, you stop fighting everything and start flowing. You stop needing to be right, and you start choosing to be healed. Don't let the pain become your home. Don't let what happened to you define who you are. You are not what they did. You are not what they said. You are not what you lost. You are not the betrayal, the breakup, the breakdown, the abandonment. You are not what you survived. You are God's, and He has peace for you, but you've got to make room for it. And that room is cleared when you forgive. So tonight, I want you to stop carrying what's killing you. That anger, that offense, that disappointment, it's not protecting you. It's not helping you, it's draining you. You've been walking around with a poisoned heart, wondering why your prayers feel stuck, why your joy won't rise, why your vision feels blurred. And I'm telling you, it's time to let it go, not because they deserve it. But because you do, you deserve peace, you deserve freedom, you deserve to live without carrying the weight of what happened. You deserve to breathe again without bitterness in your lungs. You deserve to wake up and not feel haunted. You deserve to move forward without dragging the pain behind you like baggage. But it starts with a decision. You don't need a perfect process. You just need a pure yes. A yes that says, God, help me forgive them. I don't feel ready, but I want to be free. I don't know how, but I trust you to walk me through it. And He'll do it in layers. He'll meet you in the mess. He'll hold you when the memories come. He'll speak peace to your soul until it stops shaking. But it starts with surrender. You ever feel like you're doing everything right, but it's still not enough? Like you've been showing up, praying, fasting, staying faithful, and yet your life still feels stuck in between who you used to be and who you're becoming. You're not where you were, but you're not where you want to be either. And it feels like this uncomfortable middle space that no one really talks about. This place where you've let go of the old but haven't fully stepped into the new. It's that space between breakthrough and breakdown. Between promise and fulfillment, between healing and wholeness. That space will test you. That space will make you question everything. It'll make you ask God if you missed a step, if you took the wrong turn, if you imagined what he said, because when you're in the in-between, it's easy to believe that delay means denial, that silence means abandonment, that stillness means you've been forgotten. But I came to tell somebody tonight, just because you don't see it doesn't mean God's not doing it. This middle space, it's sacred. It may not feel like it, but this is where the deep work happens. This is where God begins pulling things up from the roots. This is where he starts refining your character, reshaping your vision, adjusting your pace, teaching you how to wait, how to listen, how to follow when nothing makes sense. We don't like that part. We love the moment when the door opens, when the miracle hits, when the call comes, when the vision is fulfilled. But the truth is, God doesn't build strength in the spotlight. He builds it in the silence, and I know you're tired. I know you're thinking, I've already been through so much. Why is this taking so long? But can I ask you something? What if the wait is not punishment, but preparation? What if the silence isn't rejection, but protection? What if God is doing more for you in the delay than he could in the deliverance? Because sometimes God's greatest blessings come wrapped in stillness. Sometimes the greatest growth is happening when it looks like nothing is moving, and I get it. It's hard to trust in the dark. It's hard to believe when you don't see the fruit yet. But faith doesn't grow in full bloom. It grows in the seed stage, in the dirt, in the dark, in the unseen. You planted in tears, and now you're waiting in silence. You've done everything you were supposed to do, and now it feels like God is just quiet, like your prayers are hitting the ceiling, like heaven has gone on mute. But can I remind you, a teacher is always silent during the test. God hasn't left you. He's watching to see how you handle the waiting. Not because he's cruel, but because this moment matters. Because what he's preparing for you is too big to be rushed. And he loves you too much to let you step into it without the weight, the wisdom, the war cry that can only be developed in the stillness. You keep asking God to take you higher. But are you strong enough to carry what you're asking for? Are you stable enough to handle the pressure that comes with the promise? Are you rooted deep enough so you won't fall when the winds hit? Because we love the idea of harvest, but we don't always talk about the cost of the soil. We don't talk about what it takes to be grounded, to be shaped, to be trained. That silent season, that dry season. That space between breakthrough and breakdown, that's not the absence of God. That's the hand of God, digging, cultivating, maturing. You think he's delaying, but really, he's developing. You don't see it now, but there are things inside you that would have sabotaged your next if he gave it to you too soon. There are fears you haven't faced, insecurities you haven't confronted, patterns you haven't broken. And if he had opened the door when you asked, you would have walked in unprepared and walked right back out wounded. So he's keeping you in this space, not to withhold, but to protect, not to punish, but to preserve. Because the promise isn't just about arrival. It's about becoming. It's not about what you do next. It's about who you are when you get there. And some of you are mad at God because you're still in the waiting room. But can I flip it for you? What if the waiting room is actually the building room? What if this is where he's giving you the strength you'll need to sustain what's coming? What if this delay is the grace of God keeping you from mishandling a blessing you're not yet ready to carry? I know that's hard to hear, especially when it feels like everyone else is moving ahead. Like doors are opening for them and not for you. Like everyone else is getting married, getting promoted, starting their business, living their dream. And you're just waiting, but comparison will kill your faith in a quiet season. It will convince you that God has forgotten you, that he's playing favorites, that your time will never come. But let me remind you, when God gets ready to move, he doesn't need permission. When it's your time, and nobody can block what he has for you. So don't let the silence shake your identity. Don't let the delay make you doubt your destiny. Don't let the waiting steal your worship. You are not lost. You are not overlooked. You are not late. You are right on schedule for what God is preparing for you, and I know it's tempting to settle while you wait, to downgrade your dream, to compromise, to manipulate the outcome, but don't birth something premature just because you're tired of waiting. Don't lower your standard just to escape the silence. Don't walk away just because it's taking longer than you expected. You can be uncomfortable and still obedient. You can be unsure and still trust. You can be tired and still faithful, because obedience in the silence is where maturity is born. Trust in the tension is where true faith grows. And I promise you, if you hold on, if you keep walking, even when nothing makes sense, even when your prayers seem unanswered, even when your heart is tired and your spirit is weary, God will meet you there. In the stillness, in the dark, in the dry place, in the middle space, and He won't just meet you, He'll transform you. You won't be the same person when you come out of this. The silence is changing you. The stillness is refining you. The wait is working for you, so don't rush it. Don't run from it. Don't resent it, because when it's time, when heaven says now, when the doors swing open and the blessings start flowing, you'll look back at this season and realize it wasn't a waste. It wasn't a delay, it was divine alignment. You can be talented, anointed, admired, and still not be free. You can be gifted in front of people and still go home broken. You can be surrounded by crowds and still feel unseen. You can look healed and still be hurting. Just because you've learned how to function doesn't mean you've healed. And just because you've learned how to pretend doesn't mean you've found peace. There's a version of you the world sees, and then there's the version that shows up in the dark when no one's watching and nothing feels certain. And that version, the one who still feels trapped, still feels small, still feels like you're carrying a weight no one else understands. That version deserves freedom too. We don't talk about this enough, especially in faith circles. We talk about victory, we shout about blessings, we speak in tongues, we dance in the aisle. But then we go home and wrestle with thoughts that don't match what we just declared. We believe God is able, but we're still bound. We serve a powerful God, but some of us haven't seen that power reach the parts of us that are still chained up. We've learned how to walk around with chains that look like bracelets, decorated bondage, pretty pain, hidden heaviness. Because when you've been in captivity long enough, freedom starts to feel like a foreign concept. It's like that story in the Bible when the children of Israel were out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. They had left the place of bondage physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they were still enslaved. That's what captivity does. It conditions your mind. It makes you fear what's outside the cage, even when the door is wide open. And I want to talk to the version of you that's still caged, the version of you that's still scared to dream again, the one who doesn't know what it's like to breathe without the pressure, live without performing, trust without control. I want to talk to the part of you that's gotten used to settling, that's learned how to survive without ever learning how to live, because functioning isn't the same thing as freedom. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're free. Just because you're doing good things, helping good people, achieving great things, that doesn't mean you're free. Some of us are bound by comparison, bound by fear, bound by past failures, by generational trauma, by the sound of our own shame playing over and over again in our heads. We know how to manage it, but we've never learned how to master it. We keep it dressed up, keep it quiet, make it look spiritual, but deep down we know there's still something in us that hasn't been released. And we don't even know how to ask for freedom sometimes because we've become loyal to our limitations. We've gotten comfortable in the cage. You don't decorate a place you don't plan to stay in, but some of us have made captivity our home. We've made agreements with fear, with failure, with dysfunction, and then we wonder why joy can't stay, why love feels too heavy, why peace never lingers long, because your soul wasn't designed to thrive in a prison. And no matter how many windows you add, no matter how pretty the walls look, a cage is still a cage. You've convinced yourself that this is just how life is, that you'll always have to fight for love, that you'll always feel unseen, that you'll always have to be strong. But what if I told you that's not God's truth? It's just what the cage taught you. What if the labels you've accepted, and worthy, unlovable, too much, not enough aren't your truth, they're just your history? God didn't create you to survive. He created you to soar, to live, to breathe deep, to rest without guilt, to love without fear. But that kind of living only happens when you stop managing the chains and start breaking them. You keep asking God to bring new things into your life, but He's trying to bring you into a new life. A life where you don't just know freedom intellectually, but where you live it, feel it, own it. Where freedom isn't just a sermon, it's your story. Where you stop asking permission to be whole. Where you stop shrinking to fit into places that require you to stay small. Where you stop measuring your worth by your productivity, your image, your relationships, your wins. But you can't step into that kind of freedom if you're still hiding, if you're still playing it safe, if you're still afraid of what might happen if you let go of what's familiar. Freedom requires release. You can't hold onto the pain and receive the promise at the same time. You can't cling to who hurt you and who left you and what didn't work, and expect to walk freely into what God's trying to do now. You've got to let it go, not just with your mouth, but with your heart, and I know that's easier said than done. I know what it feels like to hold on to something so long it feels like part of you. Like if you let it go, you'll lose yourself too. But let me tell you, who you are is not defined by what broke you. You are not your trauma. You are not your losses. You are not your wounds. You are not your fear. You are a child of God, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. You don't have to keep rehearsing the pain. You don't have to keep replaying the moment. You don't have to keep questioning your worth every time someone leaves or something fails. You don't have to keep proving yourself to people who are too broken to see your light. You don't have to keep fighting battles that God already gave you victory over. You don't have to stay in that cage, and maybe you've already been delivered from some things, but you still haven't walked out. Maybe the door is open, but fear's got you frozen. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign, waiting for a release, waiting for somebody to tell you it's okay to be free. Well, here it is, you're released. You don't need their approval. You don't need their understanding. You don't need to make it make sense to anybody else. What you need is to believe that you are worthy of the life God is calling you to. That you are worthy of joy that doesn't come with guilt. That you are worthy of a love that doesn't ask you to prove yourself. That you are worthy of rest, of ease, of wholeness. You've cried enough. You've carried enough. You've performed enough. You've fought long enough. It's time to live free, not perfect. Free from the shame, free from the guilt, free from the need to be everything to everyone. Free from the pressure to prove your worth. You don't have to carry the old story anymore. You don't have to walk around with the memory of what didn't happen, who didn't show up, what didn't heal right. The blood still works, grace still covers, and freedom, real freedom, is available right now, but you've got to choose it. You've got to say, God, I'm done living like this. I'm ready to come out of the cage, because there's more. There's so much more, and the only thing standing between you and it is the lie you keep believing, that you're not ready, that you're not enough, that you can't let go. But I came to break that lie tonight. I came to remind you that God's freedom is not based on your feelings, it's based on His truth. You ever get to that place where you're doing everything you know to do, praying, fasting, reading, showing up, saying yes to God, and still feel like something is missing? Like you're doing all the right things, but something on the inside still doesn't feel right. Your possibility is deeper than that. It's not just about being present, it's about being positioned to receive. Because the truth is, you can be in the right room, hearing the right word, surrounded by the right people, and still be unavailable to what God is trying to do in you. You can be physically present, but emotionally distant. Spiritually guarded, mentally checked out, heart divided. God doesn't just want your hands, He wants your heart. He doesn't just want what you can do. He wants you, all of you, even the messy parts, even the complicated parts. Even the parts you're still working through. But the problem is, a lot of us have learned how to serve from an unavailable place. We've learned how to lead from an unavailable place, how to love from an unavailable place. Because we're still holding pieces of ourselves hostage, we're still protecting ourselves from disappointment, we're still trying to control the outcome, and so we give God a managed yes, a strategic yes. A yes, but not that kind of yes. We say, "Yes, God, I'll go wherever you want me to go." But silently we're hoping he doesn't ask us to go there. We say, "Yes, I'll serve however you need me to." But secretly we want the assignment that doesn't stretch us too much, that doesn't expose our insecurity, that doesn't bring up the old wound. But God doesn't move through edited availability. He doesn't anoint you halfway. He doesn't work with the version of you that's still negotiating the terms. God moves where there is full surrender. You want God to bless the vision, but have you made room for his version of it? You want him to open doors, but are you willing to walk through the one that doesn't look the way you imagined? You want the overflow, but are you ready to carry the weight that comes with it? Because real availability is not just about saying yes to what you understand. It's about trusting God enough to say yes even when you don't, even when you're scared, even when you feel unqualified, even when it doesn't match your plan, even when it's inconvenient. There's a cost to being truly available to God, a cost that requires you to lay down your will, your comfort, your control, your timeline, and not just once, every day, because availability isn't a moment, it's a lifestyle. It's waking up every day and saying, "God, I give you access again. Even if yesterday was painful, even if today is uncertain, even if I don't feel ready, I'm still open, I'm still available." But let's be real, that's hard. Because being available means being interruptible, and some of us have built such structured, goal-driven, self-protected lives that God couldn't interrupt us if he tried. We've scheduled him out, we've put him in a box. We've told him how and when and through whom we're willing to hear from him, and anything outside that we call a distraction. But what if the interruption is the assignment? What if the thing you keep trying to ignore is the very thing God is using to get your attention? We pray for purpose, but avoid anything that looks like discomfort. We ask for clarity, but ignore the quiet nudges. We want transformation, but resist the process. And all the while, God is saying, "I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm just asking you to be present. Present in your pain, present in the process, present enough to hear him whisper when you're too distracted to listen for the shout." Some of us are so consumed with what's next that we're unavailable to what's now, so hungry for the future that we miss the miracle happening in the moment. You're looking for confirmation and God is giving you conviction. You're asking for signs and he's giving you instruction. But you can't follow what you won't hear. You can't hear what you're too busy to notice. And you won't notice what you're unavailable to receive. We say we want God's will, but deep down we're still chasing our own preference, still clinging to our own plan, still attached to what feels safe. And that's why some of us are stuck. Not because we lack vision, but because we lack availability. You've been asking for the next level, but are you ready for the next level of obedience, the next level of trust? The next level of vulnerability, because what God is calling you into won't just stretch your capacity, it'll stretch your character. It'll stretch your faith. It'll stretch your willingness to be seen, to be poured out, to be used beyond what feels convenient. And yes, it's scary. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but that's where the oil flows. The oil doesn't fall on those who play it safe. It falls on those who say, "God, I'm scared, but I'm available. I don't know how, but I'm available. I don't feel ready, but I'm available." That kind of surrender shifts things. It shifts the atmosphere. It shifts your thinking. It shifts your posture, because God is not limited by your ability. He's activated by your availability. When you stop trying to make sense of it and just say yes, doors start opening. Clarity starts flowing. Healing starts rising. Things you've been praying for start moving. Not because you finally figured it out, but because you finally got out of the way. You were never meant to carry the pressure of having all the answers. You were meant to be available to the one who does. You were never called to have it all together. You were called to be surrendered enough to let God work through your pieces. He's not asking you to be ready. He's asking you to be willing. So ask yourself tonight, am I really available, or have I just been performing availability? Am I surrendered in my heart or just in my habits? Am I open to God's plan or still trying to get him to bless mine? Because true availability will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your convenience, but what you gain in return, peace, purpose, clarity, presence, that's priceless. And if you've been feeling stuck, stagnant, frustrated, maybe it's not because God is silent. Maybe it's because you've been present in body but absent in spirit, and now He's calling you back, calling you to realign, calling you to open up again, to soften again, to say, God, here I am. Not with conditions, not with negotiations, but with a yes. Because that yes, that full-hearted tear, soaked, trembling but true yes, that's where the breakthrough lives. We love the idea of purpose. We talk about destiny, calling, assignments. We shout over it, write it in journals, post it in captions like it's some perfectly packaged plan that just falls into place. But the truth about purpose is this: it doesn't just require your gifts, it requires your integrity. It doesn't just require your yes, it requires your wholeness and your purpose. Real, lasting, anointed purpose will never thrive in a divided heart. There's a reason some of us feel frustrated, not because we're not called, not because we're not chosen, but because we're trying to walk in purpose while still holding on to habits that contradict it. We want clarity, but we're still entertaining confusion. We want promotion, but we're still refusing to deal with the posture. We want alignment, but we keep justifying disobedience. And the result is this inner tug of war, this constant tension between who we know we're supposed to be and who we're still afraid to let go of. That's why you can be moving forward and still feel stuck. That's why you can be busy and still feel empty, because the pace of your life doesn't always reflect the health of your heart. And if your heart is split, if part of you is surrendered and part of you is still holding on to control, then even your best efforts will feel like striving. You'll work hard, but it won't hit. You'll show up, but you won't feel settled. You'll get to the room you prayed for, but you'll question whether you even belong. Because purpose doesn't just require what you do with your hands. It requires what you carry in your spirit. There are some doors that won't open until your heart is ready. Not your resume, not your social media, not your brand, your heart. Because purpose isn't just about the platform, it's about the posture. And God is more concerned with the condition of your heart than the appearance of your success. Some of us want to be trusted with more, but we haven't been honest about the fractures we're still ignoring. We've patched things up with performance, we've covered insecurity with achievement, we've masked emptiness with activity, but none of that holds weight in the kingdom. God doesn't bless pretending, He blesses purity. He blesses surrender. He blesses the space where you say, God, I don't just want to look like I have it, Taj.